the prince that was promised. For a decade, it was the central mystery of Game of Thrones, a riddle whispered in throne rooms and screamed into the flames of Ahlor. It was the legend of a single messianic hero, reborn to save the world from a second-long night. Fans and characters alike spent years obsessed with one question: who is it? Was it the exiled princess who walked out to fire with living dragons? Was it the resurrected bastard of Winterfell, a living song of ice and fire? For years, we all debated Jon Snow or Daenerys Targaryen. But what if the answer was both, and neither? What if the most famous prophecy in Westeros was the ultimate misdirection? What if it was never about a single hero, but a group effort? This is a story that points not to an individual, but to a collective. It's a puzzle that needed multiple pieces to be solved. The legend wasn't about one chosen person, but a series of events and key figures. A song that needed 3 voices to be sung correctly. Today we're exploring the theory that Daenerys Targaryen, Jon Snow, and even Arya Stark were all crucial, indispensable parts of a prophecy far more complex and fitting for the world of ice and fire than a simple tale of one hero. The entire framework for this legendary figure comes from the story of Azor Ahai. The ancient books of Ashai say that after a long summer, when the stars bleed and darkness falls, a warrior will pull a burning sword from a fire. That sword is Lightbringer, and the one who wields it is Azor Ahai Reborn. This hero, also called the Prince that was promised, is supposed to wake dragons from stone and lead humanity to victory. It's a classic chosen one story. But Game of Thrones was never a classic story. Its author, George R.R. Martin, has always been clear that prophecies are dangerous, tricky things, and this one is no exception. Its real power lies in its ambiguity, an ambiguity that starts with the words themselves. To understand the misdirection, you have to look at the prophecy itself. It's built on poetic but maddeningly vague terms. The hero will be born amidst salt and smoke, and their coming will be marked by a bleeding star. These aren't GPS coordinates, they're symbols, open to 1,000 different interpretations. Is salt from the sea or from tears? Is smoke from a forge or from the fog of war? This vagueness isn't a bug, it's a feature. Prophecy in this world is a self-fulfilling and often self-defeating game. Characters from Rhaegar Targaryen to Stannis Baratheon have wrecked their lives trying to force themselves into that role. But the biggest clue that we should be thinking bigger comes from Maester Aemon at Castle Black. Musing on the prophecy, he says that no one ever looked for a girl. It was a prince that was promised, not a princess. Then he drops the bombshell. The error crept in from the translation. The language misled us all for 1,000 years. He reveals that the High Valyrian word for prince is actually gender neutral. Melisandre later confirms this for Daenerys, explaining the proper translation is, "The prince or princess who was promised will bring the dawn." This detail doesn't just open the door for a female candidate, it shatters the whole idea of a single, rigidly defined saviour. If the language is fluid and changeable as flame, maybe the fulfilment of the prophecy is too. It was never about a specific gender, and as we'll see, it was arguably never about just one person. The prophecy wasn't a blueprint for a hero, it was a shadow on the wall, and multiple people were casting it, and the most powerful clue for this has been hiding in plain sight since Daenerys' vision in the House of the Undying. The dragon has 3 heads. While many assumed this meant 3 dragon riders, its deeper significance might just point to the trifold nature of the saviour itself. The first and most obvious piece of this prophetic puzzle is Daenerys Targaryen. Her entire arc feels almost perfectly tailored to the legend. The born amidst salt and smoke requirement can be applied to her twice. First, she was literally born on the island of Dragonstone, a place of sea salt and volcanic smoke during a massive storm. Later, she had a symbolic rebirth. On the funeral pyre of her husband, she walks into a raging inferno, surrounded by the smoke of the fire and the salt of her followers' tears. She emerges not just unharmed, but as the mother of dragons. This moment lines up perfectly with two other parts of the prophecy. As she rises from the ashes, a red comet, a bleeding star, hangs in the sky, heralding her arrival. And most critically, she does the impossible. She wakes dragons from stone. The petrified eggs she places on the pyre hatch, bringing magic roaring back into the world. No other character can claim this part of the prophecy so literally. Daenerys is the one who provides the fire, forging the weapons needed to even stand a chance in the War for the Dawn. On top of that, House of the Dragon has retroactively strengthened her claim. It revealed that Aegon the Conqueror's original dream, the Song of Ice and Fire, explicitly said, "From my blood come the prince that was promised." As a direct descendant of Aegon, Daenerys fits this lineage perfectly. She is the force of nature, the bringer of fire and blood who gathers the armies, but while she forged the weapons, she lacked the one thing that could unite the squabbling kingdoms of Westeros against their common enemy. She had the fire, but she wasn't the song. For that, the prophecy needed another head of the dragon. If Daenerys is the fire of the prophecy, Jon Snow is its heart. His claim is more symbolic, but just as powerful. Like Daenerys, he also has a rebirth amidst salt and smoke. After being murdered by his brothers of the Night's Watch, he's resurrected by Melisandre in a cloud of steam from his wounds and smoke from her fire. The salt can be interpreted as the tears of his allies, or perhaps a nod to Sir Davos Seaworth, the Onion Knight from the Salty Sea who pushed for his return. The bleeding star at his birth is a detail more from the books, but it's a powerful theory. At the Tower of Joy, a young Ned Stark finds his dying sister Lyanna after she's given birth to Jon. Book readers believe that Ned placed the legendary sword Dawn, a blade forged from a fallen star, at the foot of her blood-soaked bed. A bleeding star present at the moment of his birth. But Jon's deepest connection is his very identity. As the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, he is the song of ice and fire. He's the union of the dragon and the wolf, the one person who could possibly bridge the ancient gap between north and south. This was his purpose. While Daenerys was a foreign conqueror, Jon was the reluctant king who knew the true enemy was north of the wall. He was the one who united wildlings, Northmen, and a Targaryen queen under one banner to fight for the living. While Daenerys brought the dragons, Jon brought the cause. Melisandre, who had bet on the wrong king for years, eventually saw the truth. When she prayed for a glimpse of Azor Ahai, she admitted, "Our Halor shows me only snow." He was the shield that guarded the realms of men, but for all his leadership and all of Daenerys' firepower, it wasn't enough. In the decisive moment, with the Night King ready to win, both of the prophecy's main candidates were taken out of the fight. The prophecy, it seems, had a fail-safe, a final, secret head. Arya Stark was never on anyone's list. She has no special prophetic lineage, nor was she reborn under obvious signs. She is the wild card, the piece on the board that prophecy and the Night King never saw coming. And that's exactly why she was essential. If Jon and Daenerys represent the epic, expected parts of the prophecy, Arya represents its subversion. She proves that destiny isn't always written in the stars. Sometimes it's forged in the dark by a steady hand with a sharp blade. Her entire journey was training for one single moment. Trained by Syrio Forel, hardened by the Hound, and remade into a weapon by the faceless men, the servants of the god of death. Even Melisandre, who spent a lifetime misreading visions, saw Arya's purpose clearly in the end. She reminds Arya of a prediction she made years ago. Brown eyes, green eyes, and blue eyes. Eyes you'll shut forever. In that moment, Melisandre's real role becomes clear, not to anoint a king, but to aim the true weapon at its target. Arya's fulfillment of the prophecy isn't isn't about signs and symbols, it's about function. The Azor Ahai legend is about a hero who ends the darkness. While Jon united the armies and Daenerys brought the fire, it was Arya Stark who literally ended the long night. She delivered the final blow to the Night King using the same Valyrian steel dagger that almost killed her brother Bran and kicked off the entire war. Her role is undeniably the most pivotal in the entire war. She is the unexpected hero, the embodiment of death, coming for the god of death itself. She's the Stark of Winterfell, defending her home at the Godswood, proving that sometimes the saviour isn't the one with the crown, but the girl with no name. So who was the prince that was promised? This theory argues that it was all of them. It was never about one person, but a three-part solution to an apocalyptic problem. The prophecy's true meaning was hidden in the most iconic Targaryen symbol of all, the three-headed dragon. Rhaegar Targaryen himself seemed to get it when he said of his son, "There must be one more. The dragon has 3 heads." He thought 3 people were needed, and he may have been right. Daenerys was the first head. The mother of dragons, she fulfilled the prophecy's flashiest requirements, bringing the literal fire and weapons needed to stand against the cold. Jon Snow was the second head. The Song of Ice and Fire, he was the uniter who could bring ancient enemies together to face the true threat. Arya Stark was the third head. The blade in the dark, she fulfilled the prophecy's ultimate function, to end the long night when the other 2 couldn't. Each was a necessary piece. Without Dany's dragons, the army of the living gets slaughtered. Without Jon's leadership, there's no united army to begin with. And without Arya's kill, the Night King wins. The prince that was promised wasn't a person, it was a process. A Targaryen queen, a Stark king with dragon's blood, and a Stark assassin. It's a messy and complicated answer, but one that's perfect for a story that always subverted classic fantasy tropes. The prophecy was true, just not in the way anyone expected. It wasn't about finding the chosen one, but about 3 heroes becoming the chosen ones. For years, the fandom was locked in a debate, Jon versus Dany. Maybe we were all asking the wrong question. The story wasn't pointing to a single saviour. Instead, it was painting a triptych of heroism. Daenerys brought the fire, Jon brought the people, Arya brought the end. Together, they formed the 3 heads of the dragon, the collective force that pushed back the longest night. The grand prophecy that drove so much of the story was the ultimate feint, hiding the truth in plain sight in a world this brutal. Salvation could never rest on the shoulders of just one person. But what do you think? Was the prophecy always meant to be about more than one person, or do you think one candidate has the ultimate claim? Was Arya's role a fulfillment of prophecy or a brilliant subversion of it? Let me know your theories in the comments below, and if you enjoy deep dives into the lore of Westeros, be sure to subscribe.